So today, I really want us to walk away with an understanding of what argument or argumentative writing is, as well as the difference between argumentative writing and persuasive writing. So the first thing that we need to look at when we look at these two terms that are often used in place of one another, but they are different, similar but different. Argumentative writing is the goal of argumentative writing is to get the reader to acknowledge that your side of an argument is valid. So you're not necessarily getting the reader to agree with you, although you would hope that that would be your position and that would be what would happen at the end of the paper. But that's not ultimately the goal. The goal is to get the reader to understand that your position and your claim has merit and it's worthy based on the argument that you put forth, and that the reader needs to consider your point of view, particularly if their point of view is different. But ultimately, you're not trying to get them to side with you. You're really trying to get them to be informed, to consider both sides, and to make an educated decision. You hope that they would make the decision of siding with your claim, but they may not. Whereas persuasive writing has one and only one goal, and they want the reader to agree with them. So they would take a controversial topic that has two different sides, what we call pro and con. We'll learn more about that in this article, in this unit, but they just want them to absolutely side with them. So it's not about informing them. It's not about getting them to consider the merit of the argument. It's just getting them to agree with what they believe. The next difference between argumentative writing and persuasive writing is the way that you go about each. So in argumentative writing, the author is going to present a claim with relative supporting reasons or supporting details. They're going to give credible facts or evidence, and they're going to support each of the arguments with valid and worthy perspective. They're going to be fair. They're not going to sway the information. They're not going to leave some information out and make some information exaggerated. They're really just going to give you the absolute facts of the information presented. And what they also do is they present what's called the counter argument, where they're going to present some information from the other side of the argument to kind of inform you and show you both sides. But they really are trying to be fair, transparent, and extensive in their evidence and in their evaluation. Whereas persuasive writing is going to do a little bit of a tricky mix between the facts that they choose are really going to only be facts that support their opinion. And a lot of what they're doing is based on their emotion, what they feel about the particular topic, their experiences, their personal perspective, as a way to try to convince you that they are right. A lot of persuasive writing is based on opinion, whereas argument writing is really based on fact. So if you can go and you can prove what you wrote, and you can point to it and say, this is a fact, and 99% of the people in the world will agree, yes, that's a fact, then you have argument writing. But if it's based on what you believe and perceive to be a fact, but really is not proven scientifically, and people wouldn't generally agree with it 100% of the time, then you're really depending upon opinion, and you're looking at persuasive argument. So the starting point in persuasive writing and in argument writing is very different. How you're going to go about these two pieces is going to be very different. So we're only writing argument writing this year, but argumentative writing is really, you spend some time looking at some topics, and you're looking at controversial topics. So topics that have multiple sides to them. They have a pro side and they have a con side. And they have multiple opinions and ideas and support on both sides. And you're going to research the topic, and your goal is to research the topic to form your opinion. So you don't go into argument writing already believing your opinion. You go in and you look and you read information from both sides of the argument. And as you're reading, you evaluate which side you believe to be stronger and which side you agree with. Then you align or agree with one particular side. Whereas persuasive writing is really, you choose a topic that you're passionate about. You choose an argument or a controversy that you have very strong feelings about to start with. And then you already know your side and you only look for information to support your side. So you kind of go into it with your idea, whereas argument, you let the research and the information tell you which way to go. In terms of the viewpoint used for argumentative writing, the author will acknowledge that there are opposing opinions. They will not only just hint to you that they're there, but they will give you an opportunity to see what those counter opinions are, and they will show them to you. And they will show you how they are worthy, but how they are not as meaningful as the opinion of the writer. And the writer will make sure that you understand that the opinion of the other side of the argument isn't quite as strong, although they will not discredit the opinion of the other side of the argument. Whereas persuasive writing, the main difference between argument and persuasive is that persuasive argument never acknowledges the other side of the argument. They act like it's not even there. It's completely based on personal conviction or feeling or emotion. And the author is feeling or thinking a certain way, and the writer will only present their side of the argument. Sometimes it may include one opposing point and then it quickly dismisses it without any real argument, but normally it never even acknowledges the other side. The next difference between argumentative writing and persuasive writing is really going to be in the audience or who they're writing to. So in argumentative writing, we don't really need an audience because we're not trying to persuade anybody. We're not really trying to change anybody's opinion. Argument writing is really more of a scholastic or a school-based type of writing. And the writer is really using the writing process to learn more about a topic and learn more about a controversy and really research it. It's more of a scientific aspect of it, and the writer is simply putting out there what they've discovered as a result of their research. Whereas a persuasive writing 100% depends on the audience. So whereas argument writing, you don't have to have the reader agree with you for it to be valid. Okay, continuing on. So in the audience for the persuasive writing, you absolutely have to have an audience. The whole point is to persuade someone to agree with you. So knowing what they think and what they believe, the writer then attacks or goes after their reader and tries to persuade them very aggressively with emotional appeals and things like that to agree with their side. So it's very, very different in terms of how they talk or address the audience. And the last major difference is in terms of the the author's attitude, or as we've learned it this year, tone. So for argument writing, the tone of the writer is simply to get the reader to consider that their idea is worthy to listen to. They want to present their idea and they want to put it forth as if it has merit. So their tone is very respectful, their tone is very confident, their tone is very open-ended. And the writer is sharing a conviction or a belief that they have, whether or not the audience winds up agreeing with it or not, but they're not using emotional appeal and language. They're really only using facts and research and evidence. Whereas the attitude or the tone of persuasive writing can be a little bit more aggressive. They tend to be very passionate. They tend to be very engaging. They tend to be very heated about their topic, and they tend to be very critical of the other side of the argument if they acknowledge it at all. So persuasive writers want to gain another vote, somebody else to go after their belief. And they tend to do it very, very aggressively. So when you think of debate that people have or arguments that people have about a topic in your personal life, you're really looking more at persuasive writing, whereas argument writing is simply presenting the two facts back to back. Persuasive writing tends to be very personal, although it's very passionate and much more emotional. So let's look at some examples and see if we can figure out the differences between the two.